Who the did I marry? Part 5. I feel bad that I'm getting excited that things are starting to go downhill. That feels wrong.
So what was starting to change is he would leave the house every day at around 6:15. He would be home every day between 3:30 and 4 o'clock without fail. He started to not come home by 4 o'clock. He started to come home 5, 5:30, 6:30, sometimes 7 o'clock, because he was saying that he was looking at houses. I had already let him know my lease is up in August. When my lease is up in August, I am moving to Cobb County. It was because Legion had started to create this narrative that he was beefing with my female neighbor. He was trying to get me to believe that my female neighbor to the left of me somehow was interested in him. And so she would make these little comments, and he would come in the house complaining about her and her music and the fact that she had, different men over to the house. It was driving me crazy. And all of this was kind of starting in January.
At this point, we're just drowning in red flags, right? Watching this, we're like, I'm just drowning in them. They're falling all over me. I'm suffocated by them at this point. There's so many.
He's looking at houses. Now we're moving into February. So I take his car and I drive to the nail salon over in Morrow. I'm in the chair getting a pedicure, and I get a text message from my husband saying, someone was just at the house looking for you. And I'm like, who was looking for me? Who was it? I don't know. I think it was some dude you used to mess with.
No. He's lying.
Once I get home, I'm like, what are you talking about? What happened?
Raise your hand if you believe this story. I don't. I feel like he's just saying that to start an argument or something. We'll see.
He tells me again, it was a black Charger. They backed into the driveway. A gentleman got out of the car and he asked for me by name. Legion said she's not here. I asked him, what does the guy look like? He was shorter than me. He was brown skinned. I said, did he have a hat on his head? I didn't say anything. I just was like, that's weird. What Legion didn't know, I had a security system.
Oh my God. She has a camera set up and this never happened. I'm just so anxious to get to. I want the lies exposed, and I want them exposed now.
Also, what he didn't know, we didn't have a Ring door camera, but my neighbor did. And her Ring door camera caught my driveway. And I said, can you look at your security system and see if there was a car that came to my house at such and such time? And I know I did not tell her the reason I was at. Maybe about a couple of hours later, she texted me back and said, hey, I looked at the camera, but I didn't see anything.
We already knew that. None of us here are surprised. That's the evidence. That's the first piece of solid evidence that she has that he lied.
And I said, okay, by any chance, did it catch if someone maybe walked up the driveway? She said, I didn't see anything with your driveway. Why the did he make that up?
I filled this up before filming this video because I knew that I was going to be stressed. Take a sip of water today, but let me know what's in your cup regardless. No judgment. Cheers.
A few weeks later, we go out to eat at this restaurant in Atlanta. As we are leaving, he says to me, did I ever show you where my grandmother's buried? And I said, no. I was like, we haven't been over here. He drives us to the cemetery and he was like, you see the headstone. The headstone had the family name on it. It did not have, for example, John David Doe. It just had Doe. Okay. And so he was like, my grandfather and my grandmother are buried there. So as we are leaving, we take a different route home. He says to me, do you see the NCR building? I said, yeah. He said, the building behind it, my job bought that building. That's where we're going to have, we're setting up operations. He was like, that's where I keep the company car. I said, aren't you supposed to be bringing the company car home? And he was like, I don't want to bring the company car home because it's Clayton County and it's a $90,000 car. And so he's telling me that that's where his office is. So I said to him, take me to your office. I know it's a Saturday, but you one of the VPs, right?
Oh.
He tells me he's calling Willie. Willie is supposed to be the head of security.
I just know this is another made up character in his story, and he's able to fake a whole freaking phone call with this character that doesn't exist.
But he proceeds to go ahead and call Willie. So is there anybody up there that can physically open the building? Because I don't think my badge is going to get me at least in the front door because of it's on the weekend lock. Y'all see how I did that? He's having this whole conversation while I'm sitting in a passenger seat. So the building is locked and my badge won't get us in the front door.
I mean, we gotta give him credit for being fast at these lies. Like, his improv skills are spectacular.
At this point, I'm already numb. There's always something. What happened with Facebook Messenger?
Facebook Messenger. Oh my God, I can't click fast enough.
So I've always had his cell phone passcode. I will never go through a cell phone again. You cheating piece. So anyway, so one day he was in the shower and he received a text message on his phone from a woman. It showed that he had like 5 unread messages. So I clicked on it, just being nosy. In his Facebook Messenger is about 7 women. I can see their profile picture and I see their names. Some of them had a preview. One in particular said, "When are you gonna come get this?" Y'all know what I'm talking about. Further back in the thread, he had asked her, "When are you gonna give me?"
Girl, he's lying to you and cheating on you? Give me a friggin' break. I mean, duh.
And she said, "When lockdown is over." So from what I could piece together, he had not yet physically gotten with her. But had there been no COVID, he would have smashed.
That would be enough for me. I seen what I needed to see. See you later.
And I clearly see evidence that you into some that with me, you acting like, nah, I ain't really into that. I confronted him. I absolutely confronted him and was like, what is this? If 2 + 2 is 4 and 5 + 5 is 10, what the is this? He hit me with, man, I was just playing around. Like, ain't nothing happened. I shouldn't have said all that, but I was just flirting. I was hurt. I was angry.
But you stayed?
I thought about getting my lick back. I just being honest, I did. So this is where I introduced that we need to do marriage counseling. He may not have physically cheated, but he damn sure got caught doing a little something.
Emotional
They had exchanged
cheating.
Pictures. So y'all know what pictures he sent.
Oh, if my husband is sending pictures and offering up his ding-a-ling, he won't have a ding-a-ling left to offer. Okay. Part 6.
He came to me a few days after we started our first counseling session, and he was like, we should get a joint bank account. What he wanted to do was to each one of us have our own account and to get a joint account for our money to go in there for joint expenses. I wasn't necessarily against it because I knew that I would still have my own account. I would still have my own savings.
But girl, you're not against it even after all the things that you're slowly like, I'm noting this.
So what I countered with was, okay, let's take a look and see what we're working with. Show me your checking. Let's look at each other's accounts. He shows me his checking account. His checking account available balance was just over $9,600. Mine was just over $1,500. So there was a huge disparity in the amounts. Logged into his Chase savings, turned the phone towards me. In the Chase savings, it was roughly about $15,000. So at this point in time, I asked him, show me the U.S. bank savings, show me the other 2 accounts.
Show me everything. Show me all the accounts. We're married, and if we're going to have joint bank accounts, there's nothing left to hide. Show me it all.
He would not do it. This became a huge bone of contention. He would not show me the 2 accounts that he claims has the most money in there, the accounts that he claims has money for a house in there.
He don't have it. He only has what you've seen. There's no way this man has that money.
And so at this point, Legion kind of shuts down. I earn that money. I earned that money by playing football, blood, sweat, and tears. He went to this whole Denzel Washington monologue about how he earned that money. And no one is going to come in and tell him that he needs to open up the account.
I mean, it's so obvious at this point that he's lying. Even if you took everything else out of it and just told me this one story, I'd be like,
now moving towards the end of April, he decides that we should start looking for a house again. I didn't want any parts of it. He found a realtor. This time it was a woman. I think her name was Amber. He had told Amber, I want to put in an all cash offer.
I'm telling you right now, if this is not the last house story, I'm cutting them out of future videos because I can't hear another one.
He did not submit the paperwork when she had asked him to. That was the last time that we looked at any sort of house.
Thank God. That is music to my ears that is the last house they ever looked at and tried to get together.
At the end of April, I had decided that I wanted to look for another job. The reason I wanted to look for another job is petty. It is. I wanted to look for another job because I was pissed off at the fact that I had basically was dependent on him to help with the car note. So I wanted to look for another job where I could afford life all by myself, including that car note. Basically where I would make more money. I told him that I was going to start looking for another job. He laughed. And his exact words were, "You're not going to leave Georgia State Patrol." He was like, "I swear you love this more than you love me." Got a phone call. They had sent me an email with a background packet. In the background packet, it asked for my spouse's full name, my spouse's date of birth, and my spouse's social security number. So I showed it to Legion and I was like, "I need your social." So he writes down his social security number on the background packet. I eventually turned it in. I looked at it one day and something about the social seemed different than the social security number that I remember seeing when we did our marriage license. So I took that social and I ran a background check on it. What came back on this particular background was all the addresses that the social security number, I guess, had been attached to. The states were Georgia, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania. What I did not see was California. I thought that was weird. So by this point, we're moving into May. Things are starting to reopen. One of the things that reopened was San Diego State. So I called San Diego State. I called the registrar's office. Someone did answer. This person is saying that they were a student there. Can you verify it? The response I got was there were no records found with that social security number. I asked him about it.
Honestly, I'm like, wow, you asked him about it. It doesn't even matter. He's a pathological liar. He don't care.
I asked Legion, "What's the deal about San Diego State? Why is there no records of you there?" It just came right out and said it. Without missing a beat, this man said, "Well, I was a private citizen." What does that mean? And what he said is that when he started at San Diego State, his father paid money so that his name and social would not be publicized and he would be considered a private student, a private citizen. He said that he had a card where all he had to do was show the card. He does not have to give his name. He does not have to give any information because he had that card. He said so San Diego State would not have any record of him.
Girl, I'm getting real mad that you keep believing this. Let me tell you.
I said, and you claim that you played football. So you're saying that the school did not publish your name anywhere and they were in violation of NCAA rules? And he was like, "Why are you asking all these questions?" And I said, "I'm just curious. I'm just curious." So at this point, the pain in his knee is getting worse. It's getting to the point where when he would come home from work, he would take a shower and immediately get in bed, elevate his knee. He was not even eating the way that he used to eat. He was constantly in agony, constantly kind of tossing and turning. So much so that in May, he moved into the guest bedroom. What at first was I hit my knee at work, turned into, no, it was an old football injury. This has happened before. Turned into, it's painful for me to walk on it. Turned into, it's actually hard for me to work on it. But he was still going to work at 6:15 every morning and coming home between 3:30 and 4.
Is he faking this injury too? Is there anything real by the end of this story?
So at one point in May, he calls me from work, calls me while I'm at work. and tells me that he got a phone call from his stepson. The phone call from his stepson, the stepson was crying and was just absolutely distraught. And I'm at work in my office like, what's going on? And he says to me that the stepson informed him that his stepdaughter passed away, that she died from COVID.
No.
The stepson this is the story. The stepson found her in her apartment because they had not heard from her for a couple of days. And she was unresponsive. He called the ambulance. They pronounced her dead when she got to the hospital. So he was calling to tell me that she had died. And he was also calling to ask me if I would object to him giving his ex-wife $2,000 towards the funeral. As I've stated before, and I still am this way to this day. I don't play about death. So when he told me that she died, I immediately went into I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, that would be a hard thing to question because, of course, you're going to sit there and believe that they would never be so sick to make something like that up. By the sounds of it, I think it's made up. By the way, she said that's the story. It's probably just a story.
Whatever we can do to help, let's help. Surely nobody would make that up. The agreement was that anything over $500 would be a discussion. So $2,000, definitely. And I said, yeah, that's totally fine. He was upset because, again, he was close with the kids. And my heart went out to his ex-wife. It did, because I can't even imagine. I cannot even imagine.
I have a headache. I don't want it to be real because it's an awful, awful thing. But another part is like, but if it's not real, then that's so sick. Like a different kind of twisted.
This is now around May 20th. I decided to do another background check. This time, I did it with a different company. Not only did it give me the states, it gave me addresses, and it also gave me names of people who were like associated with Legion and that address. One of those names was his ex-wife. I've always known, he's always told me the name of the ex-wife. I did a search for her on social media. She was not there.
What?
So it did show that he had lived in Georgia at an address associated with the ex-wife. Tried to find the ex-wife, could not find her on social media. So I looked in the metro counties, the open record courts for the different counties, metro Atlanta counties. According to the state of Georgia, you were married here. You were divorced here. So I looked under her name, found a record for divorce, and it did show his name. So I did what any rational person would do. Because of the parameters of the court, you can only do the open records request in person. I did what anybody would do. I told my boss I had to go. I grabbed my purse, grabbed my keys, and I drove to the court to do the open records request in person.
I'm doing the same thing.
The open records request was for the divorce documents. First thing I see, he didn't file, she did. Second thing I see, they didn't make it more than 6 months. I see the date of marriage. I see the date of dissolution. Third thing I see, he was served in Metro Atlanta, which means that at the time of the divorce, he was living in Metro Atlanta. California was never mentioned.
Oh my God.
Fourth thing I see, he filed what is called a pauper affidavit. Basically, he filed an affidavit with the court saying that he is so poor, he could not afford the fees to pay for a divorce. He couldn't afford a filing fee. He couldn't afford a service fee. She had filed. She said it was irreconcilable differences. She was not requesting any money whatsoever. And both of them had signed a pauper affidavit. He was served in Georgia at his previous employment. He was served at like a grocery store, and it had a date of when he was served.
There was like 7 lies caught within those few minutes. a grocery store or arena football.
So I see all of this in one day. I also see on the divorce documents, she listed her name, her address, and her phone number.
Stop.
So I did what any rational person would do. I wrote down the phone number.
She's gonna call her. She's totally going to call her. And honestly, I hope she does, because I think we all know nobody's gonna give the truth like an ex-wife. You know what I mean? Especially if there's some real truth to tell. All right, I'll see you. And what part are we even on? Part 6. Stay classy out there. Stay sassy. Bye.